The sun was blazing on the quiet suburban street as my grandpa and I strolled along the sidewalk. I could hear the soft crunch of his cane on the pavement and the rhythmic tap of his shoes. We were enjoying the peaceful morning, just a simple walk, when suddenly, out of nowhere, HOA Karen appeared. She marched up to us, her face twisted in anger, and without a word yanked my grandpa's hearing aid right out. The device fell to the ground with a tiny metallic click. Grandpa froze, confused, the world around him suddenly muted. Karen's eyes were wild, expecting compliance, but I wasn't about to let this slide. Calmly, I reached into my coat and flashed my FBI badge. Karen's eyes went wide, her face drained of color, and she took a step back, uncertain. The moment felt frozen, the suburban quiet shattered by the tension. As she tried to regain her composure, I could feel the adrenaline surging through me, realizing that one small walk had turned into a confrontation that could escalate beyond anything we had imagined. But this wasn't over, and I knew the fight had just begun. Before we dive into the shocking chaos that followed, make sure to hit that subscribe button and smash the like. You don't want to miss this unbelievable HOA drama. And stick around, because by the end of this story, you'll be left questioning what people are capable of when a neighborhood dispute spirals completely out of control. It started innocently enough. Grandpa loved his morning walks, and I loved accompanying him. The neighborhood was always quiet, the kind of place where people waved and nodded as they passed. But HOA Karen had always been a thorn in our side. She prided herself on enforcing every obscure rule in the neighborhood book. It didn't matter if it was minor. If it wasn't according to her manual, she would confront you. This morning her fury was palpable. She appeared as if summoned by the universe itself to ruin our walk. The moment she yanked the hearing aid, the tension escalated instantly. People began peeking from their windows, drawn by the unexpected confrontation. My grandpa's eyes widened in confusion and fear, his hands trembling slightly as he reached instinctively for the space where the device had been. I remained calm, every instinct telling me to take control of the situation without violence. Flashes of every HOA nightmare story I had ever heard ran through my mind. We were a quiet, law-abiding duo, and yet here we were, challenged by one woman who seemed to have elevated petty rule enforcement into an art form. As I revealed my badge, Karen's gaze shifted rapidly, the confidence she carried for years crumbling in seconds. Her face became an awkward mix of shock and fear. She didn't speak, couldn't find the words, and for a moment I felt almost sorry for her. But the next chapter would reveal just how far she was willing to go to save face, and the neighborhood would bear witness to the storm about to erupt. The confrontation escalated in ways I could never have predicted. Karen attempted to regain control by calling an emergency HOA meeting in the middle of the street, insisting that her authority must be recognized and that my grandpa had violated neighborhood conduct simply by walking. People began to gather, drawn by the commotion, whispering and pointing as the tension built. Grandpa tried to understand, gesturing to his ears, trying to communicate without words. I stayed close, positioning myself between him and Karen, keeping my badge visible. Her strategy shifted, now relying on intimidation through crowd manipulation, her voice rising and commanding attention. But every step she took, I could see her hesitation, the uncertainty that had set in when she realized she was no longer in control. Slowly, bystanders began to murmur, questioning her behavior, some daring to approach, siding with us. Karen's composure cracked further, and I realized that the entire neighborhood's perception of power was changing before my eyes. She had underestimated not only my authority, but also the growing awareness of the community around her. By the time the HOA board members arrived, summoned by frantic phone calls from neighbors, Karen was visibly shaking. The rules she had wielded like a weapon were now powerless in the face of reality. I adjusted my stance, ready to protect my grandpa, and the scene set itself like a powder keg, poised to ignite further confrontation that would reveal the true character of everyone involved. The next chapter took an unexpected turn. Karen, desperate to maintain her grip, tried to argue procedural technicalities, claiming that my grandpa's hearing aid incident was a violation of unspecified neighborhood laws. But the moment she tried to pull out paperwork, her voice wavered. Neighbors started questioning her motives, some recounting past incidents, each more absurd than the last. It became clear that her obsession with control had isolated her from reality. I realized that her power had always been theatrical, dependent on fear and submission, and now both were gone. Security cameras from nearby homes captured the interaction, and I discreetly made sure every frame showed her aggression and our composed response. The tension was unbearable, each second stretching into eternity. At one point, Karen attempted to approach my grandpa again, but a firm step forward from me halted her in her tracks. Her eyes darted nervously between the crowd, her hands trembling slightly. This was no longer just about a hearing aid. It had become a spectacle, a testament to the dangers of unchecked HOA authority and the resilience of ordinary citizens when confronted with absurdity. As the HOA board members reviewed her actions, I noticed her attempt to manipulate the narrative fail spectacularly. The evidence, both visual and from eyewitnesses, painted a clear picture. She had overstepped every boundary, and now there was no way to salvage her reputation. And just when I thought the chaos had peaked, an unexpected revelation would propel the situation to an entirely new level, leaving everyone, including Karen, in utter disbelief. In the final chapter, the consequences of her actions unfolded dramatically. The neighborhood had rallied in our favor, emboldened by the exposure of Karen's overreach. Legal advisors from the community offered guidance, and the HOA was forced to reconsider the bylaws she had been enforcing with such zeal. Karen attempted one last gambit, claiming that the FBI badge was fraudulent and that we had staged the incident. But her words fell flat as I calmly presented official documentation and identification, proving both authenticity and intent. The community's sentiment shifted irreversibly. Instead of the whispered fears and cautious compliance she had relied on, there was now open scrutiny and accountability. Karen's reputation was permanently altered, her authority undermined, and the lesson was clear. The rule of law and common decency always outweigh the theatrics of unchecked power. My grandpa, finally reassured and able to reinsert his hearing aid, smiled, and I felt the weight of the entire ordeal lift. The neighborhood returned to its usual quiet, but with a renewed sense of vigilance. People knew that standing up to absurdity, even in the most polite of suburbs, was not just possible, it was necessary. The story of that morning, the confrontation, and the resolution would echo for years, a reminder of how far one determined individual could stand up against unwarranted authority, and how courage could inspire an entire community to reclaim fairness and respect. If you enjoyed this unbelievable HOA showdown, don't forget to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications for more jaw-dropping stories just like this one. Share it with your friends, leave a comment on what you would have done, and join our community so you never miss another insane HOA drama moment.